Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the largest cryptocurrency channel on all the interwebs. My name is TJ, and I'll be your host for today's episode of Around the Blockchain. Every weekday, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we come to you live with our favorite crypto friends and personalities from around the blockchain to discuss today's trending topics as well as your most asked questions. We've got a really good show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin dumping. Is this the bottom, or are we about to dive right into a bear market? That's what's on everybody's mind as we're watching the charts today. We're going to get into that. Also, we've got the pipeline, hackers getting paid in crypto. What long-term effect can this have? Is this just pure FUD, or is this going to have a domino effect as we move further into the year, as well as we're seeing some giant BTC buys and some big volume spikes at certain price points? We're going to dig into that a little bit at the end of the show to see if that support is strong enough to hold and what we might expect in the future. We've got some really good guests lined up for you today. Justin Williams, everybody's favorite bear, is going to be joining us. Well, that's CryptoJebb down there. Oh, well, now we're back with Justin Williams, everybody's favorite bear. We know his favorite altcoin is USDT. We've also got CryptoJebb, the fastest talker, joining us today. He's always got lots of really good information. Hashoshi, the tech in the house, bringing it down with the new setup and the nice cool light. And as always, bounce that asset, Bitcoin. I almost called
Bitcoin boy.
I almost called you
boy.
Bitcoin Ben, actually. So no,
Ben.
not wrong Ben there. Ben
That's
Armstrong.
channel.
Yeah, joining us
No
today.
conspiracies here.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it straightforward. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We always have a good time doing this. We're gonna do some market watch. So let's get started. We've got the price dumping. Recently, just tapped off $31,100. It was dumping this morning. We saw 10% drops, a little bit of a bounce and retracement, but you know, it's still, if I'm looking at it right now, it looks like we're coming in right at 33,500. So is this support? Are we going to see some more market action? It's down 50% from the all-time high in April. So we'll start with you, Justin, as you got the title of the favorite bear at the beginning of the show. Like, is it over? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think if you're asking if it's a bear market, I think you have to, at this point, bear market can be a relative term. I don't think it's as defined as people think it is. You know, right now it's 50%. I think at some point it broke down into the, you know, close to 60% correction. And historically, I was talking about with somebody today. I mean, this is the second largest dump since the Mt. Gox episode back in 2013. So, I mean, I don't know if it's the bear market or if it's a consolidation sideways action for some kind of massive manipulation, but it's definitely unprecedented, and it's something to be concerned about. And if anybody's saying it's not, we shouldn't be concerned and keep buying the dip and just buy and buy. I would watch where I'm getting my information from. I think right now, for me personally, as you said, USD. I'm not in USDT, by the way. I'm actually in USDC.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's my
wrong stable coin.
So I'm watching. I have a lot on the sidelines. I'm watching for better opportunities. I do think it's going to go a little lower. I think that's the sentiment across the board. So whatever you want to call it, bear market, huge correction. I don't know what you want to call it, but I definitely think it's a change.
If you say if you think it's going lower, are there any key levels you're looking at that you would want to buy more at?
If it breaks below 28, I'll start buying some more.
Okay.
You know, if Bitcoin breaks below 28, I would be looking at buying some more BTC.
Perfect. And then you said this is the second largest crash since Mt. Gox. Now, is that dollar-wise or percentage-wise? It has to be percentage, right? That seems.
I think it's percentage-wise, yeah, for a correction.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
which I also said that last time I was on the show, and Altcoin Daily said I was stupid and crazy. So.
Well,
we need to get him back on the show.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious too. I want to check that math. That doesn't sound right to me, but I mean, I guess.
No, I think that is right. I mean, because look, Mt. Gox crash was the beginning. I believe was the beginning of the actual bear market after 2014. So that would have been like, you know, the biggest crash would have been after that bear market, and then or at the beginning of that one, and then in 2018 when it crashed, you know, that would probably be the second one. So this would line up percentage-wise to be the third biggest crash, I believe. I mean, it makes sense to me. I understand it because it's not including that dip, that 83% dip in between 2013 and 2014.
Yeah, and we were hearing a slide.
Trust me, I'm not going by memory. I read this in an article, so.
Yeah, and well, I believe you. If you read it, I believe you. And
Crypto old. His memory isn't that great. So
that's right.
I think he's the only.
I'm a bit of a burnout.
Over 40. Yeah, he's over 40 years old. So.
Crypto Ric Flair in the chat actually just said my favorite saying, when in doubt, zoom out. We're all going to be okay. And that's one thing to keep in mind. Don't panic. But one thing I also forgot, speaking of memory, to say at the beginning of the show, if you're new to the show, you see those score boxes in the bottom right-hand corner. If you like anything you're hearing as they're talking, make sure to drop a +1 in the chat, and I'll know to give them a point. So let's get those plus runs rolling. I feel like there were some pretty good points there made, so we need to pump those scores up. And as always, we really appreciate having all these guests on. The link to all of their channels is in the description below. So if you guys go to these channels, they all have very good info. Well, Justin Williams doesn't have a channel. He's our resident NFT guy here. But CryptoJebb, Hashoshi, great channels with a lot of information, you guys, and a lot of perspective on these markets you can learn a lot from. So make sure to go follow them, smash the likes. And we've got, let's see, how many people we got in here right now? About 6,000 people and only about 1,000 likes. So if you could help us get those likes up, it helps get the message out, helps people learn about cryptocurrency, and hopefully change their lives for the better. Now, back to CryptoJebb. I know you do a live stream every day. You were probably looking at the same thing we were looking at this morning as we were watching the market dump. What is it you were looking at, and what insights can you give us this morning or this afternoon?
So here's the deal. What you have to realize whenever you're looking at a major correction on a market is that is a part of a cycle. I say this all the time. Markets are cyclical. They go up and they go down. Duh, right? But that's a foundational concept, and it's important. We are in a correction right now. We've been in a correction for the last 60 days. We're down 50%. Those are some basic facts. But another fact that you have to consider is what caused us to rally in the first place from where we were stable around $8,000 to $12,000 mid of last year, just after the COVID pandemic crashed to 63% in in about 4 days or a week or so. After that occurred, the entire bull market that we went into from $10,000 to $65,000 was built on the back of FOMO. It was built on the back of people listening to opinions and making decisions based off of them. It was built on the back of people like Elon Musk buying Bitcoin or Tesla buying Bitcoin, big names saying good things about Bitcoin, whispering sweet nothings into our ear about how they love it. And so everybody bought it on the back of that. Here's the problem. Technical analysis is simply the manner of looking back in the past, looking at what the intrinsic value of the cryptocurrency market was, trying to get a feeling for it, realizing that the price is never going to be right at that value. It's going to fluctuate up and down and up and down, and realizing that the overall long-term trend of Bitcoin is based on that underlying value. Those are adoption metrics. Those are companies and countries and corporations buying Bitcoin, accepting it, and driving the adoption forward. It's regulatory certainty. These kind of things are the things that drive long-term appreciation. So what I'm really encouraging people to do right now is not to focus so much on the crash. Focus, and that's not to say that's not important. That's not to say that we shouldn't pay attention to it. Emotionally, to help people have faith in the long run, make sure you're focusing on the fundamentals, because yes, we're correcting. And by the way, a lot of people are asking this question, where's the bottom? I think the bottom could be as low as $21,000. Personally, I think that $30,000 probably will hold. I said 3 months ago that the absolute bottom I see is $30,000. Right now, that's where we pulled back to. Peter Brand over on Twitter said that he thinks that $30,000 is going to hold, but he could see it going down to $21,000. I think that 30K will hold. That's my opinion. I can go into the nitty-gritty technical analysis if people are interested in it, but I really want to focus on the big picture here. And this is the final point I'll make. There are two ways to profit in cryptocurrency markets. There's trading and there's investing, right? Whenever there's a profitable trade, that's what we talk about on our show. I'm going to show you the profitable trades because I want my subscribers and my viewers to make money, right? But when there's not very obvious profitable trades, like right now, when it looks like we're somewhere around the bottom, you don't want to short at the exact bottom, but you probably also don't want to go into a long position right now because we haven't confirmed where the bottom is. Not great trade opportunities right now, but what there are great long-term investment opportunities. If you're planning on holding for a long time, I'm not talking about if you're planning on holding for 2 days or a week. I'm talking about if you're planning on being here for the very long run, then you should be looking at that investment, not at the trading. It's really important that you keep your emotional mindset correct here because a lot of people get freaked out about it, and it's just not something I think they ought to do.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. Something we talk about people with a lot is time frame and perspective. Hashoshi, I know you have a little bit more of a long-term macro analysis. You're a little bit less of a day trader. So let me hear from you a little bit on what you're seeing today. Do you think, like, because he did mention we had a lot of positive news over the weekend, and now all of a sudden immediate shift to almost all negative news, bad story after bad story. Does this feel coordinated to you?
I mean, yeah, I think you can look at the patterns over the last 60 days and see that there is a recurrence of old fear, uncertainty, and doubt, old news stories that are based on speculation but sound really bad. And so when you start to get this self-fulfilling prophecy of people who are worried, like, hey, at 60,000 you're getting itchy and you're thinking, you know, should I take profit? Is this the top? What do I do? Some bad news happens, people sell off, and then other people start to panic. You're hitting your targets and you're like, hey, we're at 50 now, I'm selling, I'm getting out. And so it's a lot of that FOMO, people buying because it kept going up, are now looking back like, hey, should I cut my losses now? Should I just move out? And that's when you get into these periods of consolidation. But for someone like myself, I come from a tech background. I really believe in this, you know, this technology and also the fundamental economics of things like Bitcoin long term. To me, this is just a bump in the road along a much longer path. And for me, it's been all focused on actually how impressed I am, candidly, that we're holding 30,000 given all of the negative news that we've seen. We've seen everything from China and other countries fully banning Bitcoin and crypto in totality. Now you've got people saying the FBI is cracking Bitcoin wallets, which isn't happening, folks, just to let you know. I'm sure we'll get back there. But I'm actually impressed that we're at where we are, considering all of the negativity in the space. And that might be an unpopular opinion, but just how I feel.
No,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think that's great analysis. It does. Yeah. It has 30,000 has shown to be an extremely strong support. I would agree with what Jebb was saying earlier, that we've seen time and time again. You can zoom back even, you know, back in the past where you can see there was big buys happening there and huge inflows at that level. Not saying it's set in stone, like Jebb said. There is a scenario where it could break down even further, but it, you know, from what we've seen so far, 30,000 seems to be really, really strong support. But Ben, let me hear from you a little bit. He mentioned, Hashoshi mentioned that the government supposedly claiming that they reclaimed those things, that they've been able to access a Bitcoin wallet and take it back. Now we've got reports saying that that's not actually what happened. We can see the warrant that they went after. So talked about that a little bit. And is this a threat to Bitcoin, or is this pure, like, where do you think this story is coming from? Why do you think they represented it? And kind of, they almost made a statement saying, like, we've reclaimed this Bitcoin, to make it seem like they just went into a wallet and got it.
Well, I got 2 words for you. Tommy talks. Okay, let me explain this to you. Okay, are you familiar with the designer Tommy Hilfiger?
Oh boy,
is anyone here?
Where is this going?
Things are cyclical.
I like Tommy.
Okay.
Yeah, we know.
I wear Tommy.
Justin, could you show them that logo on your shirt? Wow,
where's that?
Justin is wearing a Tommy shirt right now. This is amazing. Oh. There was a time when there was a lot of FUD about Tommy Hilfiger, if you guys remember. Right? Everybody say it was racist. He was racist for a long time. And you see what happens? Over time, it just comes back into style. The markets are the same way. It's cyclical. We have this FUD that things are terrible, and then what happens? The market comes back in style. Right now, the market is out of style. Everything is negative. And look, here we go. I'm not selling pry out of my dead hand. That's what I'm saying at this point.
Yep.
We have got to look. Where do you think that Tommy Hilfiger FUD came from? Anybody got any guesses?
Probably another fashion industry.
I'd say probably Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
Now, where's Polo? Okay. The fact is that right now, all these people who are saying these negative things about Bitcoin, they're villains. They're the rivals. They're the enemies. Exactly.
What are the odds?
The devil wears polo.
Oh,
okay.
Wow. Okay, I see how
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Dang.
I'm just saying. But in all reality, though, there is actually some relevance to this argument I'm trying to make here, which is that we see everything go in cycles. The FUD comes in cycles. We need to be paying attention to the people that are saying these things. They are our enemies. They are enemies. Mm-hmm. The people that are putting out these stories that we know for a fact are just FUD, these are bad people. If CoinDesk and Cointelegraph are writing stories saying the FBI has cracked Bitcoin, we need to cancel them. We in crypto have the power to control the narrative. And it's time we take that power back. And we're going to do. The fact is, our videos get more views than a CoinDesk article gets read, especially between the people collectively that come on this show. We got the power to take, or we got the power to take the power back, and we got to do it. Period.
Perfect. So, do you advocate for privacy coins at all, or do you think there's any case to be made for people using privacy coins, or do you think this story is completely unfounded, like that it's almost fabricated, or do you think
it is fabricated for sure?
100% fabrication.
100%. You can. I think. Well, hold on. I might rip off my shirt and talk about some frogs here.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Let me tell you,
Okay.
I'm starting to think this whole Colonial pipeline thing is a scam. That's what I'm starting to think.
Like a whole setup.
A whole setup. A false. Let me get my voice here. It's a false flag. It's a false flag. But look, on some level, I'm being serious. Well, I did not speak about the frog's preference. Okay. But what I will tell you here is. What I will tell you here is something doesn't smell right with this at all. Yeah. Okay,
it's the frogs.
We've got this. It seems like a little misdirection. I don't want to sound like a crazy person, but there is a 0% chance that these hackers were sophisticated enough to hack the Colonial pipeline, receive Bitcoin, and get it confiscated. 0% chance. So I don't care what story they want to make up, what they want to say. It's literally impossible. So anything you hear about this, you should be taking with a grain of, a grain of salt. Is that what you say? Grain of salt.
Yeah, yes. that is the phrase, and it is really interesting. It was on this show about a week or two ago that we were talking about. We were looking at the Wyckoff manipulation. Actually, I think Jeb, you might have been on that episode. It might have been all four of us. I can't remember, but we were looking at different countries and nations that might be getting involved with Bitcoin. As we all know, we talked about this morning. There was also comments from the former president about the threat that Bitcoin is to the U.S. dollar. And then we were saying, like, all this manipulation, this volume, it just seems inconsistent with stuff we've seen in the past. It starts to feel like this is some big money, maybe some sovereign nations coming in to get involved with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And then sure enough, last weekend at Bitcoin 2021, we hear El Salvador naming it their legal tender. And then a domino effect, we hear Paraguay and Brazil and a lot of other countries. Panama, I believe, was one of them, kind of hinting that they might follow that strain. So it's not surprising that we immediately see in the following week a lot of the other major countries that might feel a threat from that coming out with negative news. But Hashoshi, do you think this could be really all that coordinated? Do you think they're really that invested? I mean, in the past, they kind of tend to ignore these kind of things and hope they go away. But do you think this is other nations trying to FUD the price down before all the kind of less fortunate nations get involved, and they kind of want to keep more for themselves? Like, more or less, do you think we'll eventually hear the United States as a big Bitcoin holder because they're trying to get their hands on this stuff right now?
I mean, I think it would be speculation to say with any certainty that this is a coordinated effort by, nation states to do something or to manipulate the message. But what you can say clearly is that, let's just say everything that we've seen about the Colonial pipeline, there was a ransomware attack. The hackers did take Bitcoin and they moved it to a server somewhere. And so it was easily tracked. The FBI then basically takes over the server and is able to break what is effectively a software wallet on that particular machine, which is not a very difficult thing to do. Let's be candid. If you use a weak password to encrypt your wallet and you have the key material stored on your server, anyone with technical acumen with hacking skills could probably take it, right? I think the way it's being messaged by law enforcement is a particular strategy, which is to say, hey, we're fighting ransomware. If you go in Bitcoin, we can get it, so don't. And they're hoping that the people who are less sophisticated will believe that and say, hey, okay, we're not going to use crypto. Because you've seen all this coordinated stuff running about to fight ransomware, ban crypto, which is the dumbest generalization, logical conclusion you can make. It's like banning cars because people get run over by cars and drive distracted, right? Exactly. Those things don't make sense. So I think really that's the agenda here, it's how do we stop this from happening? Because right now, most companies are really trying to invest in cybersecurity to prevent this from being a problem for them. And I think that cryptocurrency is viewed as the enemy when it really isn't in the ransomware scheme.
Yeah. No, that was a lot. That was really good analysis, really good points. And lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about some of this whale accumulation we've been seeing going on. We've seen supply by entities holding 1,000 to 10,000 has increased by 35,000 BTC. Crypto exchanges registered a net inflow of 22,550 Bitcoin on Monday. That's Bitcoin coming onto exchanges. So this is money that's been sitting on the sidelines that comes into exchanges. That's part of what creates the volume they need to create that downward pressure. That was the largest single day net drain, it says, since November 2020. So we're starting to see, whale wallets accumulation happening across the board. Certain wallets getting more and more. And then on the inverse, we're seeing retail traders or people that maybe invested in Bitcoin mid to late 2020, maybe early 2021, they're starting to get really, really nervous as this price gets down closer to numbers that they entered. And something we talked about a little bit is the psychology of the retail investor, where they got their initial first exposure. That matters a lot to them. Like if you bought at $50,000, you're really scared right now at $30,000. If you bought at $6,000, you're a lot more comfortable. So, Justin, talk to me a little bit about the psychology of the retail investor. Do you think, like in the conversations you're having, do you think a lot of people are getting shaken out right now?
Absolutely. I mean, firsthand experience last cycle. I mean, I've shared before on the show that I was the guy getting shaken out. And I think I was talking to somebody today. I think to make it through, like to be a successful crypto trader, like if you really want to make some money, or just even a crypto investor, you almost have to go through a bear market and you got to lose everything. It's unfortunate. Like I tell people that too, especially people that got in a couple months ago and they're calling me, concerned, or what do I do? I'm down and I was up and now I'm way down. And I tell them, like, you've paid for an education. Like this is an education. Now we all believe, I think we've shared on, just on the show today, that we all know the long-term vision of crypto. We all know, Bitcoin in 5 years is going to be worth $1 million. And I really believe that. Like, I believe that. I believe Ethereum is going to be 30,000, and there's going to be a handful of other coins that are going to be worth a lot of money that if you have right now and you hold on to them for 5 years, you're going to be sitting pretty good. The problem with that is the psychology of seeing your money go from 100x all the way back down to like in the negative is hard on people, and the panic is real. And so I think the best way to learn from that is you have to like live through it, and it's unfortunate. I want to revisit real quick that FUD that we were just talking about. Who is believing that stuff? Like at this point, like I don't know who believes this stuff about the Bitcoin wallets, or who even believes all the other FUD coming around. And so I just, either I'm like really, really smart, or, everybody else is extremely uneducated.
Yeah,
well, I think it is. I think it's a balance there.
I think to be honest,
who would say that?
You might have answered your own question there. I think it's experience a lot of times. Like a lot of us have heard this same exact FUD in the last cycle. Oh, only criminals use Bitcoin. China's banning Bitcoin. India's banning Bitcoin. Oh, the energy consumption's too high. Like all these, Tether might collapse and the whole market will fall out. Like all of these same stories get recycled and recycled. And once you've heard it 2 or 3 times, it's easy to say like, oh, that's just the typical FUD, move on. Kind of like you just said, once you go through a whole cycle, you kind of know the cycle signals and you're familiar with those things. So I think I agree with everything you just said. Experience is definitely the fastest teacher, and you learn the fastest with trial and error. And unfortunately, sometimes losing a little bit of money is the fastest way to learn. But I mean, if all of us, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, guys, and listen to Justin. This is a guy who went from losing everything to wearing Tommy every day. This guy went to the Tommy store and he bought it out. He didn't care if he was racist or not. He just went out there and he said, I am going to wear Tommy every day. And this is a guy you can really trust.
Fake news.
Fake news.
But
I knew he wasn't racist.
In all seriousness, though, when it comes, in all seriousness, I'm trying to bring it back here. Okay. In my opinion, what this is, I don't think people do believe it. I don't even think new people believe it. I think that what is happening is you see the Elon tweets, you see the FUD stories, and the leverage traders get nervous. The narrative is changing and they exit those positions. Those leverage trades are really what is affecting the market. And I'm not talking about somebody who's watching the stream who has, a $7,000, long or short open, with Bitcoin. I'm talking about the real money leverage traders who are trading millions and millions and millions of dollars. They're exiting positions because they see the signs of when to get out. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that people are like, I'm going to capitulate. Wow, China banned Bitcoin. Like, nobody's thinking that. You know, what it is they're seeing the narratives and they're getting out at the right times, and that's affecting the market a lot of selling pressure.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and it actually brings us to our next question that I was going to ask you is about some of these Bitcoin whales we've been seeing this action. Like, have you heard anything from them about some of their strategies? Any of the kind of people you talk to all the time? What have you heard any kind of intel from like the way the whales, the people that do have hundreds of millions or millions of dollars in this market, how are they positioning themselves right now?
Yeah, they're trying to scam us. They're trying to scam us. That's true. They're trying to scam us. They're trying to scam the retail investor. That is what is happening right now. They're trying to make you think this thing is going down. It's over. Like, think about the conversations we were having 3 months ago about Bitcoin. Then think about the conversation we're having today. Think about the narrative, okay? The narrative has shifted. Yeah, they're trying to get you shaken out. That's all it boils down to. That's why I'm taking a stand against these people at this point. I'm taking a stand against them. We're not selling. We are going to push forward. We are going to get it out of people's minds that selling is an option, because that is what they want you to do. Yes, you have 0.25 BTC. You got, well, it was a lot more a couple months ago, but right now, what is that? What is 17 and a half? It's like $9,000. Okay, let's say you got $9,000. It's not a lot of money, but think about the other 5,000 people that have $9,000. Okay, the money compounds. It adds up. It doesn't matter if you have a quarter of a Bitcoin, they want you to sell it. That is all this is about. And we're going to start fighting against these powers that be that are trying to push everything down. And this is not, like I said earlier, this is not a surrender flag saying like, we're just going to be stupid and ride it all the way down. This is a war right now, period. And we're going to win it.
Yeah, and it's very true. Darth Flyer said it here in the chat. He said long-term versus short-term thinking is really what sums all of this stuff up. And it really is. It was kind of like what Mr. Wonderful was saying today. Like, I bought it. I'm not selling it. I don't care if the price goes up $20,000. I don't care if it goes down $20,000. I'm holding it. The old adage in the space that you hear him say all the time is 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. So, you know, that is the mindset that we're taking into this as we're going forward. Now, we also have news of MicroStrategy, kind of the Bitcoin hero of this year for sure, putting a lot of money into Bitcoin, try to prop it up with everything they had. They've revised their bond offering plan from $500 million to $100 million. From $100 million to $500 million. I'm sorry, so bringing it up significantly. Can that prop up this market? And Jebb, do you worry about them ever running out of capital, or do you think MicroStrategy is going to keep buying and buying and buying?
I think MicroStrategy is a symptom of a deeper disease, and I'm using that the backwards way. I'm not saying it's a bad disease. I'm playing on words here. I think that what we have right now, guys, is we have all kinds of institutions, all kinds of power players, now countries like El Salvador buying into Bitcoin. That's what I'm more interested in. I'm not interested in what Elon Musk has to say, whether it's good or bad, by the way. I'm not interested in what Kevin O'Leary I'm interested in his argument, but I'm not interested in it because it's him saying it. Right. What I'm interested in are the facts, not the opinions. I'm interested in what is real, not what is said. And that's the thing that happened over the last 12 months. We saw the market get propped up by everybody saying, oh my gosh, I love Bitcoin. Elon Musk buys Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, who we love, he goes and he has this conference and everybody's heard about it. Okay, cool. But we built this bull market. We pushed ourselves to $65,000 on the back of opinions. But the thing is, all the while, the underlying intrinsic value of the market was continuing to go up. Why? Because there was adoption happening, because the industries were starting to move into the space. As a lot of people have talked about, when MicroStrategy did that event back in February and got all these corporations in one room and taught them all about Bitcoin, cogs have been turning ever since that day. Institutions are stepping into the cryptocurrency space, and to Ben's point, they do want you to sell because they want to get a good entry. Listen to the power players. Listen to what they are doing, not what they're saying. That's the thing that everybody's doing right now. Everybody wants to hear what Elon Musk says. I'm much more interested in what Elon Musk does. Notice he might have said something bad about Bitcoin, which quite frankly, he was just making a critique. He didn't sell Bitcoin, neither did Tesla. Apple might be getting in the future. Amazon might be getting in the future. Whole freaking countries with 6.5 million people are getting into Bitcoin now. Why are we concerned about a correction? I hear a lot of people being very, very upset, but here's the thing. If you're upset, if you're emotional about your money going down, This is an issue. And I say this because I love our subscribers. I love the people watching this show, and I want you guys to be successful. Being upset at something that is happening, like intentional manipulation, is absolutely justified. Being scared because the market is correcting is a sign of, I'm just going to say it, investor immaturity. And here's what we can do about that. What we need to do is we need to realize that if we're very emotional when the market pulls back, it's probably either one, we're over leveraged, or two, we have our faith in our money rather than in other things. Here's what we need to do. We need to take out the emotions from the market. We need to go back to basics and realize those emotions do not belong here. We need to look at the facts, not the opinions of power players in the space. We should listen to their arguments, but not necessarily to who's making them, and make long-term investment decisions based off of that. Now, if you're a trader, you got to listen to those fundamentals, because that's probably going to move the market for the exact same reasons that Ben just said. I'm not going to reiterate it because he said it perfectly. There are going to be small-term movements that you can make money off of trading. Right now, it's kind of hard to trade because we're in uncharted territory. Bitcoin has had a major correction, and we don't really know where the bottom is. There are people making money trading right now, but I think it's a lot safer to do investment right now, as it always is. What we see are these major institutions want to see the price go down because they know that if it goes down, they will get a low entry price. We should be doing the same thing. Those institutions are very wealthy for a reason. We should be following what they are doing, not what they are saying. What are they doing? They're buying Bitcoin. That's what we should be doing.
That was great, man. You got me all fired up now. I'm one of my favorite things. Yeah, I mean I agree with everything you just said. Yeah, drop that mic, man. That was amazing. Yeah,
that's right. You got to go from a Tommy investor to a Polo investor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Shouting out the Polos. How about that?
Well, I mean, I think something you said there is really key. You got to watch what people are doing, not what they're saying. Even people that are coming in right now that are like Kevin O'Leary, for example. He's saying great things about Bitcoin. Yeah. What was he saying about Bitcoin 6 months ago, a year ago? Calling it a scam, calling it terrible, saying he doesn't get it.
Exactly.
At the same time, he was probably accumulating. So Mark Cuban, same thing. A lot of these big people, like you said, they've got motivations. They're playing games. So you got to look at what their actions are, how they're positioning themselves, not what they're saying. But Hashoshi,
that's why I love the group that's why I love the group we have here, because everybody on this show, by the way, to the viewers watching this, they are doing what they're saying, and that's why you should subscribe to all these channels.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all we can do is share with you guys the way we look at things and the actions that we take, and hopefully it helps. But Hashoshi, this is something I'd like to hear from you. I mean, it's very easy for us to come up here and say, like, hey, don't get emotional, right? Don't get your emotions wrapped up in your money. Well, but that's very hard to actually do in reality for a lot of people. Even for us as individuals, we've got a lot invested in this stuff. We've got a lot on the lines. Like, we know as long-term investors, we need to remove our emotions out of it, but it's not always easy. So you always have such a calm demeanor and a long-term approach. You don't strike me as emotional in these markets at all. So can you give anybody any advice or any tips, or like how do you approach the market that way, and what's the best way for people to kind of remain emotionally stable through these kind of markets?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, it's not to say that I'm a superhuman by any stretch, right? I'm a human being underneath it all. And it's emotional to watch something that you believe in or not evaporate in value, to watch your net worth to take a hit, to feel like I'm wrong. Am I wrong to believe in this? All of those things are normal to feel. But I think that the first step in this is something that Jebb touched on, is not being over leveraged, right? You need to make sure that you're going to eat, your family's going to eat, your mortgage is paid, your rent is paid, making sure that you're not feeling the squeeze from life, which is important, right? Bitcoin's not going to do you much good if you're on the street. So you got to get your budget in order and make sure that the money you've got in the markets is not your money that you need to live. That's the first way to not feel the squeeze of the market, because your time horizon can be long. Beyond that, I think the next thing is to go back to fundamentals, especially with the FUD, right? You may not be a super deep tech guy. So when you read a report from the FBI that says they're hacking Bitcoin, you might not be able to decode that. And that's okay. I think if you look at something like the Elon Musk news, you look at that at face value, you're like, oh, Elon Musk is turning on Bitcoin. But let's look at how materially the value prop for Bitcoin has changed since Elon Musk made those statements. The truth is it hasn't. It's exactly the same as it was before. And Tesla hasn't sold Bitcoin off the balance sheet that we know of. Elon Musk hasn't sold Bitcoin out from his own personal stash. We are making that assumption. From there, you think about, well, what does that statement that he made actually mean? All it means is that people that really weren't going to buy a car with Bitcoin just can't really do it anymore anyway. And ultimately, it really doesn't mean a whole lot. And a lot of these other news stories have been the same way. India was not banning crypto. They weren't banning Bitcoin. And honestly, I think you have to go back to first principles and really look at the news that's making you feel this way and think, how does this change my long-term view of Bitcoin? And in my opinion, most things aren't going to.
Yeah, that's a really good breakdown, and I think really good advice for everybody. Justin, they're asking for you in the chat, man. They want to hear some more of those Tommy talks. So I'll hit you with the very last question. We're seeing all these outflows, and we're seeing. My question for you is, where do you think the majority of these outflows are going? Do you truly believe we're starting to see governments and nations accumulating? Do you think it's going to hedge funds, or do you think it's just Bitcoin whales that have been here for years that have seen these cycles and they know how to prey on people with less experience?
First of all, I'm not a racist.
No, we know that. We know that. I don't think you need to clarify.
My wife is Latin American,
you do nowadays.
so
yeah,
I'm not racist.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think some countries can be scooping it up. You know, I think everything you just said, I think it can be spread around. You know, that there are large institutions, people that have been in it for years, they have weathered through these cycles, and they have the long-term vision. You know, I think they're taking opportunity when they can. You know, Michael Saylors has been buying the dip since it hit like 40K. You know, and he's still buying the dip. So I think there's a lot of people, a lot of players like him that are scooping some of this stuff up. A lot of whales like him, and hopefully, you know, fingers crossed. We all want the news that these countries are actually going to buy it and use it, you know, to back their economy. So I think it's everything across the board. You know, I'm not completely out of crypto, but I'm still in it. I still have some Ethereum and a little bit of Bitcoin and a lot of USDC. So I'm sitting pretty good.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate having everybody on here today. That's about all we have time for. Some good news, a little hopium to leave us off with, is the price actually has been going back up while we've been on this show. So we got a little bit of a recovery today. As always, we join you guys live Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. And so we'll be back here tomorrow to see where the markets are at. It looks like we've got Hashoshi with the top score today. So you've got 30 seconds to leave the audience with your parting message. Take it away, Hashoshi.
Yeah, so I think what I really want to touch on is just to reiterate some of the stuff that we've heard today, right? It's looking objectively at the news that you're reading, right? Looking objectively at the stories, and then thinking about the price of Bitcoin. Do you personally believe that Bitcoin is priced at a lower value than it should be, or than it's going to be? If the answer is yes, then you can sleep easy at night and you don't have to stress so much about the day-to-day price movement. Having that long time horizon, folks in the chat have been mentioning it. It's so true. But ultimately, looking at the change that this technology can bring, the opportunity that it gives people, especially in places around the world that have not had the same economic opportunity as we're lucky enough to have here in some of these Western countries. And I think that's something that we can all celebrate and look forward to is the positive change and opportunity that can come in this technology in the long term.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. As always, thank you everybody for joining us today. Feel free to check the description for the links to Hashoshi and Jebb's channel. Make sure to go like and subscribe. Also, if you guys we're right at 3,000 likes. If you could get us up over 3,000 likes, there's no reason we can't get that here today. We really enjoy doing these shows and talking with you guys. And I think the kind of common thread through this one really was about critical thinking, zooming out, doing your own research. But don't just make decisions based on what we're saying. We're trying to give you advice on how to think. We're not trying to tell you what to think. So as always, do your own research, find sources you can trust, and follow your own convictions. Because I think that was another thing that kept coming back today is we all have very strong long-term convictions about this market, and that's what makes us feel safe and secure even through these dips. So we'll be back.
Yeah, and lastly, I would just like to say, just do what Tommy does. That's the message. Look at Justin. He doesn't care what people say about Tommy. He hodls.
It's Tommy.
Team Polo.
He knows it's coming back. He knows it's coming back.
Come on, Team Polo in the chat. Come on, let's see it. Team Polo.
I've been hodling Tommy.
I'm a Polo guy. All right, that's all we have time for today. We're out.
Bye.